Hello and welcome to Critical Political Thinking. My name is CAMASSO, and today we come to you with a very special report on the passing of Ruth Bader Ginsburg. There's a very important question that has come to the attention of the United States, and that is, should President Donald Trump nominate a new Supreme Court justice? We will cover that and just exactly how important this is to America in this very special report from Critical Political Thinking. Hello, and thank you for joining us here at Critical Political Thinking for our very special report on President Donald Trump and should he be able to nominate the very next Supreme Court justice after the passing and the unfortunate timing of the passing for the Democrats of Ruth Bader Ginsburg. It's very unfortunate that in my opinion, fantastic leader and a spectacular role model for women, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, has passed away. And unfortunately, she passed away at one of the most awkward times that could have possibly happened. So what does this mean to America? What's next? And why is it that the world seems to be in an outrage over Donald Trump performing what should be a standard presidential duty of nominating a Supreme Court justice when one passes or is no longer physically fit to conduct the job? So first, let's go over what is the Supreme Court so we understand why it is so important to us here in America. So the Supreme Court is basically the highest court in the United States. Not basically, it is the highest court in the United States. That is where most major appeals are heard and where substantial cases are heard, such as United States versus so-and-so, state versus state, state versus United States. All of those extreme cases are heard in the Supreme Court, as well as some of the most important landmark cases, Roe versus Wade, all that kind of stuff. So why was it created? It was created as basically a formal, final checks and balances that was supposedly supposed to be balanced based on the fact that you nominate, the president nominates, Senate approves or kind of confirms, and then once that is concluded, this position is now the Supreme Court in the land. And that's a position that you hold until you die or until you're physically unfit, and at which point you would retire due to physical ailment. So, how many are there? There are a total of 9. That would be 8 associate Supreme Court justices and then 1 chief Supreme Court justice. They are appointed by the president, and as I mentioned, they're approved by the Senate, or, it's concurred that they move on. And then, obviously, it's a position that's held for life. So when you nominate someone, it has to be somebody that you firmly believe in. It has to be someone that the Senate firmly confirms. And it has to be somebody that represents the best of what you need. And what it is basically each president is expected to present a list. And they can update this list accordingly. But they're supposed to present a list of who they would basically nominate so that they can be vetted in advance, so on and so forth, so when something like this should happen. Now, fortunately, Donald Trump put this list out maybe 3-4 months ago. It's almost as if he predicted it, or as if he wanted to be a transparent president, which unfortunately, the left hasn't been as transparent throughout this entire campaign. For instance, Joe Biden said even if, and I'll get to why this has been an issue, but basically Joe Biden has already stated that he will not be releasing his judicial nomination list until after the presidential election. Many are speculating as why this would be, and the only reason that most are concluding is that basically he just doesn't want them to be vetted, or he doesn't want it to be part of the election because of the extreme choices that he may be making in order to cross that Supreme Court back to the left firmly. Now, with that said, how many cases are heard? On average, there are about 7,000 cases presented to the Supreme Court, to which only 150 to 200 of the most important cases based on, an agreement are heard. So between 150 and 200 are the maximum heard. So that means Supreme Court is basically the top 150 to 200 cases in the United States every year. These people are literally justices for the balance of their lives. So they work all their lives to get to this position. They're nominated, and then the Senate approves them, and then this is a position that they hold until the day that they die, or they can no longer do so. At this time, as I mentioned, there are nine on the Supreme Court. And let's go over those justices. Now, the way I'm going to explain these justices is in level of liberalism. So the first person I mention is going to be the most liberal in the group, all the way down to the most Republican. And I'm going to let you know exactly when it crosses over from liberal into Republican. Now, keep in mind, the last of the liberals, I say, and the first of the Republicans, I say, are going to be closest to the middle and may go either way based on the way they feel about the situation, which means they're typically not party voters, they're situational voters. And there's only two of them. But let's get into that. So first we have Sonia Sotomayor. It's very difficult to pronounce, but Sonia Sotomayor. And she is as liberal as they come, and she is a liberal Supreme Court justice. Then next in line would have been Ruth Bader Ginsburg, but unfortunately she is no longer with us. So it goes to Elena Kagan, and she is also a very liberal individual. And then we have Stephen Breyer, which is the final liberal Supreme Court. So now, this is why the left is flipping out. This is why the left is trying to find every single solitary reason in the book to prevent the president from doing what I'm going to explain to you in a few moments, technically is his job. So, now we get into the Republican Supreme Court justices. Now, it's important to understand the first one I'm going to mention is semi-Republican. Now, he has voted for several liberal things, but for the most part, he is Republican. And that's going to be John Roberts. Then we have Samuel Alito, another Republican. Neil Gorsuch, a Trump nominated Republican. Brett Kavanaugh, yet another Trump, and that is a Republican. And Clarence Thomas, yet another Republican. So right now there are currently 5 Republicans and 4 conservatives. I'm sorry, pardon me. 5 Republicans and 4 liberals, 4 Democrats. Okay, so that leaves us with a semi, and being that, John Roberts used to go a little liberal, a little Republican, it was pretty much a well-balanced Supreme Court. So with that said, you had the presidency that's Republican, the Senate that's Republican, then you had the House, which is Democratic, and then you had the Supreme Court, which is basically fair in the middle. But now, if Donald Trump is able to nominate and get approved the 5th Supreme Court justice, and we're going to go over the 2 that I am 99% sure it'll be chosen from. He's already stated it's going to be a woman to replace a woman, which is, in my opinion, quite unfair for the simple fact that you should never choose someone based on race, gender, anything that you can't control. If you can control it, that should play part in the position to which you play. But with that said, I'm not going to get into that because perhaps she is the most qualified, and I haven't had a chance to vet them all properly, being that this happened just the other day. So we're going to roll with the fact that she is the most qualified, or these top 2 women are the top 2 qualified, and that's why he selected them, because that's typically the way Donald Trump works. But being that this world is as crazy as it is, sometimes people tend to cave a little bit. So, as I mentioned, 5 Republicans, 4 liberals, one's passed away. We're going to have 6 Republicans. If this goes through. 6 Republicans in the Supreme Court, which is probably the most that we've had ever. And that means that it's literally going to go Republican almost each and every time something comes to Supreme Court. And that is why the left is, pardon my language, shitting bricks. They do not know what to do. So, they've come up with a few roadblocks. The first is, in my opinion, a very low blow. And in my opinion, I think it's something very similar to the Atlantic story about Donald Trump desecrating soldiers, to which there's absolutely no physical evidence, an anonymous source, so on and so forth. Now we have another situation very similar where, quote unquote, on her dying bed, her final dying wish. Now, keep in mind, this is somebody that has studied politics her entire life. She knows that no matter what she says or does, it should not play a part in the political arena. And on top of that, she also understands that that shouldn't be her last words. I believe, I love you to my family, something along those lines. But they're claiming her last words were that Donald Trump should not nominate a Supreme Court justice until after the election because she thought Joe Biden was going to win, Joe Biden will nominate, so on and so forth, or vice versa. But that is what the Democrats are trying to throw out. And then with that, they're also going to try to throw out the fact that they would impeach Donald Trump if he tries, and the only reason they could possibly impeach him would be over the coronavirus, and the only reason they said they would do it is to prevent him from being able to nominate a Supreme Court justice, because we can't do that when he's being impeached for a second time. He's got to go through the hearing, so on and so forth. So those are the two roadblocks they're attempting to, throw out in front of Donald Trump. Now, keep in mind, Nancy Pelosi already stated that she could file an impeachment every day. She has so much dirt on Donald Trump, and they have so many arrows, quote unquote, arrows in her quiver, that she'll stop this from happening. Well, please, I dare her to try. Because let me explain to you, this country is based on principle, and this country is based on prerequisites, and this country is based on precedent. And let me explain to you the precedent of this situation. So, there were 29 times that there was 29 of 29 times it was possible there was an appointment in an election year for Supreme Court. So 29 out of 29 times the president did make an appointment in an election year for a Supreme Court justice. Okay? Of which 19 of the 29, leaving a remaining balance of 10, 19 of the 29 times the Senate and the presidency were the same party. So what does that mean? 9 times out of 10, if the president says yes, the Senate's going to approve. And guess what happened? 9 times out of those 10 of those 19 nominations came before the election. The other 9 came after the election. But the 10 that came before the election, okay, and keep in mind, 29 and 29 happened, but it just depended on the timing of the death and so on and so forth. It so happens that this death was within enough time that they're capable of processing this whole entire situation. But in the past, only 10 of the 19 nominations came with enough time for it to happen. 10 of the 19 were the Republican-led both the House and the Senate. Now, with that said, 9 of those 10 times, the appointed Supreme Court justice went through. So we're at a 90% click that in an exact same situation, so an election year, Republican and Republican, Senate and presidency, okay? And then the nomination was approved 9 times out of 10. But every single time you made the nomination. So for the left to even come out and say that it would be unpresidential for him to do that. What's unpresidential about doing the job of the president? You know what makes me laugh? And I dare you to look this up because it's such factual information. I can't even make it up. Did you know that Ruth Bader Ginsburg had an interview far before she passed away and sat down and said, a presidency does not end after 3 years. A president is a president for 4 years. They don't just stop doing their job after 3. Therefore, it's up to the president to make that nomination. Okay? That's exactly the words that came out of Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And yet, all of a sudden, on her deathbed, she's going to come off with something completely opposite? Number one, I think she has far too much integrity to pull off something that ironic. I think the only ones with the little integrity would be the Democratic Party at this point, because clearly they've lied about so many things, such as President Trump never said to drink bleach. President Trump never said to take chloroquine without a prescription. President Trump certainly didn't say to take a version of chloroquine from a fish tank. President Trump didn't start forest fires. President Trump didn't cause climate change. And the biggest problem with the forest fires was mostly vegetation management, on top of the fact that California has literally drained the entire soil of every drop of water, and now they're forcing the Colorado River, but we're not even going to get into that. So what I'm getting into is the fact that literally everything that they're putting in front of Donald Trump and saying that he is guilty of, he's not. And frankly, for him not to appoint someone would be contrary to the way things always go. And frankly, it would be unpresidential for Donald Trump not to nominate someone. Now, I'm not saying for Senate to even approve. I'm saying for Senate to properly vet them. And if Senate thinks that this is the best person for the position, and unfortunate for the Democrats, it is a Republican Senate. So chances are Donald and the Republicans are going to be on the same page for this nomination. And I'll tell you what, Democrats, unfortunately, no matter how much you like it or not, the Republicans are going to be taking over the Supreme Court. And guess who rules on most of the election issues and problems? Supreme Court. So guess what? No matter how many times you cheat, the passing of Ruth Bader Ginsburg may have just been the final coffin in the Democrats for this election. And it's unfortunate that it had to come that way, because Ruth Bader Ginsburg, as I mentioned from the get-go, was a fantastic woman. And please don't think for a moment that I think anything other. While I don't agree with her policy, she had such compassion and passion for the way she did things. It was honorable. It really was. And it's unfortunate that she passed, and it's unfortunate that she passed in a Republican Republican Senate and presidency, but she did. The president still has a year left in his job. And unfortunately for the Democrats, he is going to make a nomination this weekend. And that nomination is going to be one of two people. Let's talk about that. It's either going to be Amy Coney Barrett, who is, in my opinion, definitely going to be the choice, or Barbara Lagoa. Barbara Lagoa. I apologize. So it's either going to be Amy Coney Barrett. Now, who is Amy Coney Barrett? She is the Chicago 7th Circuit U.S. Court of Appeals judge. Okay? She went to Notre Dame. She graduated in 1997 with a degree in law. She is a mother of 7. So compassion, I'm sure she has. She's in her mid-40s. So she's got a very, hopefully, long and illustrious career ahead of her. So it's a great nomination for the fact that it's somebody that's going to be there a while, understand the Constitution, and properly be able to interpret the Constitution, and technically with the Republican eye. She has a very strong faith, which is something also that I feel leads to character. She is reliably conservative, which is something that obviously a conservative president would be looking for. And her mentor was, of course, Antonio Scalia. So, these are all things to look into. Her record as an appellate judge is fantastic. She is extremely fair. And to be honest, while she is extremely conservative, she is a fair conservative. So she's somebody that you would want on Supreme Court if there was going to be a conservative Supreme Court justice. Now, Barbara Lagoa, the 11th Circuit Court of Atlanta. So she had even a more, I shouldn't say more. Chicago and Atlanta are probably two of the roughest districts. And to have an appellate court, you really have to understand the Constitution. You have to understand law and order. And that is exactly why I feel that these two make exemplary Supreme Court justice nominees. Either one. Now, Barbara graduated from Columbia University with her degree in law. She's in her 50s, so she too has, a good 20, 30 years probably ahead of her. She would be the first Floridian to be in the Supreme Court, and she is very community-oriented, meaning everyone in her district in Florida is very familiar with her. She's very philanthropy-oriented, philanthropic, I'm sorry. It's one of those days, but I just wanted to make sure that you understood who these two nominees were. I wanted to make sure that, we got a grasp on what the Supreme Court was to America and is to America, how important this nomination really is, and if the Republicans do get it through, even if they don't get this one through, and Donald Trump does win the presidency, obviously he'll have another nominee, and then Senate will approve. But to be honest, today they had not a mock, but a sample poll as to whether or not they will allow the vote to go through in the Senate, and the majority was there. So the way it looks is this weekend, Donald Trump will be nominating Amy Coney Barrett. I could be off on that. He's going to be nominating someone, but my personal opinion is he will be nominating Amy Coney Barrett. And before the election, she will be approved by the United States Senate, and there will now be 6 Republican Supreme Court justices. 6 of 9. That is the majority each and every time, even with an absentee. So this is something extremely important. This certainly swayed the election without a doubt. And fortunately for the Republicans, it definitely swayed it in their direction. I hope this was very informative. I hope you now understand that even if you despise Donald Trump, he has the right, and he's not being disrespectful to Ruth Bader Ginsburg for not waiting As a matter of fact, it was disrespectful if, in fact, Ruth Bader Ginsburg would request of the president for him not to do his job simply to benefit the liberals. There's no other cause. There's nothing that could have prevented that other than to benefit the liberals. And that's not something that a president, especially a Republican president, should base a decision on. So please don't blame Donald Trump for this, as everything else in the world has been blamed on Donald Trump, because while this too fell into his lap, he is handling it with dignity. He is appointing another woman. And on top of that, he's appointing a woman of faith. He's appointing a mother of 7. And he's appointing somebody that's a graduate of law school with an excellent reputation in a city where law and order is practiced daily. So again, I hope this was a very informative video. I hope you now understand where we stand as a country with our Supreme Court, who the Supreme Court is, the precedents set on an election year for the nomination of Supreme Court justices, who they are, and now who they may be. My name's Corey CAMASSO. Thank you so much for watching our videos. Please like and subscribe, as we are a non-paid organization that tries to bring you the best information possible. We don't just bring political information all the time, even though we are critical political thinking. We try to bring information such as COVID and just about anything that America needs information on. We are here to provide to you. And while we do have a conservative twist on things, we do bring the factual information. And we're not just going to break stories based on guesses like The Atlantic. We do things based on fact and not anonymous sources. We will always do our best to provide a source. My name is Corey CAMASSO. This is Critical Political Thinking. Thanks for watching, stay safe, and God bless America.